The gospel tells us that when Herod found out that the Christ was to be born and had been born, that he was troubled, and all Israel with him. It's almost as if to say that he was saying, Jesus Christ might be Lord, but I'm the boss here. And so as I began to explain this rivalry, this competition between Herod and the child, something happened at the 4 o'clock Mass. And there was a little boy that was sitting right where Ray and Sis are. He was with his mother and his grandmother. And he was probably 2, or maybe less than 2. And he decided that he was no longer satisfied just sitting there. So he started to get a little rambunctious. And it began to escalate. And all of a sudden, he was out in the aisle. And so I began to realize that everybody was paying more attention to him than anything I was saying. So I had a decision to make. Either I was going to see if I could talk over him, or I was going to kind of bring him over to his mother. But I began to realize that God was doing something there. So I went over and I scooped him up. And after I picked him up, he looked at me, and he started looking at everybody in the church. And everybody all of a sudden realized that what had started had turned into something that nobody realized was happening and intended. And I said, this is Epiphany. This is what the Epiphany is about. God is trying to show us something through this little child. This child that I have in my arms is pointing to that child in the manger. God is revealing himself to us right now. As a matter of fact, Pope Francis recently had something to say about children in church and how God speaks to us through them. So I said, I'm sure that the reason that Herod had a problem was because he was full of anxiety and full of fear. He thought that he had to be in competition with this new king. And so he had to try to get him out of the way. We know how that story ends. We know how that story goes. But I said, what God is trying to reveal to us and what God is trying to show us through this child is that we have so many things that we're afraid of that we don't need to fear. I said, I'm sure that when this little boy is hungry, he probably lets his mother know. She went, and you feed him, right? Yes. I don't think he was potty trained yet, and yet when he needed to be changed, he probably let his mother know, and she changed him. I don't think he was worried about whether he was going to have a bed to sleep in that night. That God was trying to reveal to us through this child that we need to be dependent, that it's okay to be small and vulnerable. We have so many fears, so many anxieties, so many things that we feel that we need to be in control of. On New Year's Day, on the Feast of Mary, Mother of God, I talked about that. I asked the question, what we do when we're faced with the mysteries of life, things, situations, circumstances that present themselves to us and we don't understand. What do? Oftentimes we have bad reactions. And I pointed to Mary, who when she was confronted with the mystery of life that was being revealed to her through the angel, what did she do? She didn't understand. She praised God. She praised God. And because she praised God, grace was available to her. We have so many agendas, so many things that get in the way. It's like I said to you at the beginning of Mass, I don't have time for this surgery. Well, what am I going to do? What can I do? God's got a plan. Renee said to me at the beginning of Mass, she said, well, Father, you've had a rough couple of years, but you're getting all fixed up. Well, maybe after this I won't need a new body. I'll have a brand new one. But the reality is that God, as St. Paul said to us, was revealing himself through the mystery. And it was almost as if, as we celebrate Epiphany took place right in front of us at the 4 o'clock Mass yesterday. And so, why not use it? I wonder what would have happened instead of Herod being filled with fear and felt that he needed to compete. I wonder what would have happened if Herod would have scooped the child up, like I did with that boy, with that little baby, and raised him up for all of Israel to see. What would have been the outcome of that? I guess we're never going to know that answer. But we can do that in our lives. Because God is continuously going to reveal himself to us each and every day. Life is a mystery. Are we going to be able to see God's handiwork in front of our faces as he reveals himself to us, sometimes through children, sometimes through your spouse, sometimes through your friends, sometimes through your co-workers, sometimes through the most least and unlikely sources and places and situations and circumstances? How will we respond? How will we respond? Epiphany is God's self-revelation. God's self-revelation. Life continues to unfold. Life continues to happen. And yet God is with us. Emmanuel. May we be open to the promptings of the Spirit as Christ continues to manifest himself and reveals himself to us in the least, most unlikely ways.